everything right, it was you and me.
Hello everyone, my name is Nayeema and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. And today we are doing a romance book recommendation video for Recommendation Fridays. You guys know that every Friday I like to film one of these, get the recs out there, let you guys know what I'm currently reading and what I'm loving, and hopefully you guys can get some really good recs as well. We're in a different setting today. We are in the living room of my crusty college apartment because I cannot look at another I can't look or film at another video again of me in that room, and like I just have to figure out how I want to film in there. But for now it's just gonna be here. Hopefully it isn't as crusty as I think it is. I feel really low. Conscious? I feel like that's better, but I'm in pain now. Anyways, today's video is going to be a recommendation video like I previously stated, and for this one there has been a trend on TikTok recently with the song Glue, and it's like one of the lyrics is "you've been hiding in plain sight," and people are posting like their significant others that have been in their face like this entire time, but they hadn't known. They like went to elementary school together, and then there's like pictures, it's them like in the same class, far away from each other across the room, but then that person ends up being like that person's significant other. And I just think that concept is so cute, and it also really reminds me of Invisible String by Taylor Swift. The song is off of her Folklore album, and Invisible String is basically about having like an invisible string tying you to that other person like this entire time. They're at the library reading and you're in the park with your dog. Like there's just always been like an invisible string tying you to each other. Because of those two songs, I decided to make a little recommendation video for the concept. Honestly, while I was making this list, I was kind of like, this trope is just, it's always been you kind of, or like childhood best friends lovers. Even though some of these books don't have that aspect, I really just got heavily it's always been you vibes from when I was gathering this list. And so it is kind of similar in that way, but I just am going to romanticize it and make it all like Taylor Swift. So I made a list. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I am obsessed with this right now on TikTok. Like it is so cute seeing like you've known your partner your entire life, but like just not in that way, and then it hits you. It's like you've woken up like, oh please. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. Without further ado, let's get right into the romance book recommendations. The first book that I thought when it comes to this trope is Sinner by Sierra Simone. I love this book so much. This is basically best friend's sister. We have a girl named Zenny, and she is on her way to becoming a nun. Basically, like she's grown up in a super religious Catholic household, and her brother's in ministry, and she really wants to become a nun. That's always what she's wanted to do. And then we have Sean, our hero, who is best friends with her brother, but they haven't spoken in years. Basically, he has also grown up in a super Catholic family, but because of things that went down with one of his siblings, he has distanced himself from the church. He claims that like he wants nothing to do with church, really only cares about his business, his family, and girls, and yeah, that's just how he lives. So one day he's out at a club or a bar or whatever, and there he sees Zenny is in college right now, and when she graduates she's gonna become a nun. When he sees her, she thinks that she's the most beautiful girl in the world, but he does not realize that she is his brother's best friend. Zenny recognizes him instantly and is like, ooh, this is perfect, because Zenny, before she becomes a nun, she wants to experience all that life has to offer, meaning sex. She's a virgin, and so she really wants to just like be sure of what she's about to give up with her life, and she wants Sean's help to do it. And so they meet that night, they talk, they dance, whatever, end up having like some type of business dealing, but that's kind of irrelevant to the whole thing. But when Sean finds out that that little girl that he knew growing up is actually Zenny, his best friend's little sister, he is pissed off. He really wants to help her, but he can't, like lose her, you know, B card. Number one, she is significantly younger than him, about to become a nun, and it's his best friend's little sister. So all these things are just like stacking up, and he's like, no, this is just like a recipe for direct disaster. But at the same time, he cannot stop like wanting her, and so he ends up helping with rules, of course. This one just really strikes me as like Invisible String. Number one, because it's his best friend's little sister, and number two, Zenny as a child was there for him during one of his toughest, hardest times, and he's always remembered that. And like she was just like a little kid who always wanted to like hang out with him and his best friend, and like just all along there's that like invisible string tying them to each other. And this book is so incredibly hot. I, to this day, like, don't think I've read a hotter book. Sierra Simone's smut is just... So yeah, this one is my first book that I'm recommending for this. Like I said, it could work for It's Always Been You, but I'm romanticizing that up a bit, and the hopeless romantic in me just can't. Like, I can't resist. The next book that I'm going to recommend for this little trope is Why Are You Here by Brianna Jean, and I had recommended this book before in my toxic romance rec. It was actually first recommended to me by Freya from Freya. I will have her channel linked down below. If you like dark romance, you definitely have to check her out. But this book is so invisible string, like, it is just so invisible string, and I love it so incredibly much. So these two are actually twin flames, and our heroine has grown up with a lot of issues surrounding her mental health. She has had a lot of trauma in her life, and when she went away to college, she went away to school in New York, and there she was constantly just drinking, doing drugs, having sex with random people, and it was just not a really good environment for her. And so when she graduates, she decides to move back to Los Angeles, where she is originally from, and she moves in with her best friend, who is a influencer living in LA. And the one thing that helps our heroine during like all of these hard times is music. She loves music, and her favorite artist is actually a guy named, I don't even know his name, I think it's like Judah. Yes, I was right. Okay, it's Judah Colt. So music is a thing that like gets her through it, and her favorite artist is Judah Colt. He has a lot of songs that she can resonate with and that she thinks about deeply, and that feels like it's just like written for her. And so one of her first nights back in LA living with her best friend gets invited to be in like a music video party type of thing. So basically a music video is being filmed at this party. She decides to take along the heroine, and so she goes. There's also like a surprise music guest or whatever, and imagine her surprise when it's Judah Colt, her favorite artist of all time. So when these two lock eyes, it's instantly like, I've known you forever. Like, I feel like you are a part of me, you're an extension of me, whatever. In the book, they described it to be a twin flame relationship, which is very much like tumultuous. And so basically, like, they're constantly fighting, but there's so much love, and when it's really good, it's really good, and when it's really bad, it's really bad. It's a very, very toxic relationship dynamic. For this one, it just gives invisible string vibes, because obviously that was her favorite artist, and he has helped her during, like, with his music during the most toughest times, and the fact that like he's actually her soulmate or twin flame. Listen, don't come for me for the like, I have no idea if soulmates are the same as twin flames. I don't, but it just gives invisible string vibes, because he was always there for her and he was tied to her. They just didn't know each other yet. So yeah, that's the next book I'm recommending. The next book that I'm going to recommend is a book that I recently read and absolutely adored, and that is His Curvy Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. If you have not heard me talk about this series, you must be new here, or you must have never been listening. This book just came out. It is the 4th book in the series, but you do not have to read the other books in order to read this one. I highly recommend you do, but this book was just amazing. First of all, trigger warnings for body shaming and also bullying, so be aware of that before you go in. Also, there definitely are other triggers in the last 2 books that I recommended. I just simply forgot. I'm so sorry, but please look into the triggers. So His Curvy Rejected Mate is a werewolf shifter romance, and I personally love werewolf romances, and I think they need to be given a bigger chance. I know that shifters are really big right now in the romance world, but funny enough, I never see people talking about werewolf romances that often. I see like demon shifters and shit like that, which I'm not yakking your yum. I just like haven't really tried them or like dug in deep, but werewolf romances are just so classic and so good. But His Curvy Rejected Mate follows Flora, and she is one of the lowest ranks in the pack that she's in. She's a shifter. Then we have our hero, who is one of the highest ranks in the pack. He is about to become alpha. It's between him and 2 other guys, and basically Flora is curvy, she is plus size, and because of this she is treated like absolute dog crap when it comes to the other pack members. And because it's kind of like abnormal for a werewolf shifter to be bigger, it's just like people would call her, just bully her really badly. But the one person who didn't is actually Alec, who is the hero. These two have been hooking up since back in high school. I think it was like their junior year or something like that. They've been keeping it secret. He would always just like nod his head and she'd follow him, and whatever, they would hook up. They have never had sex though, but they would just always hook up. And he is a very quiet person. They didn't talk outside of these hookups, but in the beginning of the book I thought he was an absolute dick just because of the way he treated her, and it really felt like he was just keeping her a secret. But turns out, I don't want to spoil too much, but it turns out that these two are mates, which you find out pretty early on. Obviously it's like in the title. I don't want to spoil, but this causes issues for him, for her. His family is like, you're about to become the alpha of the pack and you're gonna have someone like her as a mate, whatever. This just gives such immaculate invisible string vibes. Obviously they were hooking up and they're in the same pack, so it's not that crazy that they were together. But honestly, it really is when you think about all the like intricate details of like him constantly thinking about her. And by the way, that doesn't happen until you're mated, so it's not like, yeah, because it was in their DNA. No, it's because it's just all these little things, and there's always like been like a string that was tying them to each other. There had to be a reason for them to hook up in the first place, and it's not because they're mates, but just because there's been an invisible string. And I don't want to give too much away, but this is by far one of my favorites in the series. Like I said, there are 4 books out and it is amazing. I was crying, I was laughing, I had so many feel-good moments, and I was just rooting for Flora, the heroine, the entire time. And it's just, I can't. You have to read the series if you haven't already. The people who come back to my videos and tell me, oh my gosh, I read this book, I read the book by the way, they end up loving it. So be like them and listen to me and go read the book. Go read the series. This one is so good though, and I highly, highly recommend it. The next book that I'm going to recommend is Longshot by Kennedy Ryan. I love this book so incredibly much. It is so gut-wrenching, and I can't recommend it enough. Please look into the triggers for this one. There is heavy domestic abuse, so please be aware of all of that. Physical abuse and emotional abuse. So Longshot is a sports romance, and it is like the world is the NBA world, and we have our heroine Iris, and she thought that she met the love of her life, a basketball player, and at first she thought she fell in love and it was beautiful and it was everything that she's ever wanted, until he starts abusing her. And one day Iris meets August, who is actually the hero of the book. These two met, they could not stop talking. It feels like they finally met what the other person was looking for their entire lives, till he realizes that she's already taken and that she is someone else's girl. That happens to be one of his biggest rivals. And because of this, obviously these two had to part their separate ways. These two reunite quite often throughout the book. There's always like just something that is bringing these two together. An invisible string, maybe. Obviously August does not know the abuse that Iris has been enduring all this time. They want each other so badly, but like Iris's boyfriend will not let go. It is just such a heartbreaking, heartwarming as well story, and it is so beautiful. I just remember crying and sobbing while reading this book, and this is just such a classic invisible string story to me, because always being brought back together in each other's lives. They couldn't be together, but they really wanted to. Such an amazing story, and I think it is perfect for this trope. And if you haven't read it, have to read it. It is beautiful. Obviously don't if you have some triggers. It is just such a beautiful story, and I would highly recommend it. And invisible string is so them. Like they're just pulling them. And the last and final book that I am going to recommend for this trope is Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is Elsie Silver's most recent release, and obviously this series has garnered a lot of hype surrounding it. Powerless was such an amazing book, my least favorite out of the 3 so far, but I definitely want to do a reread because I was reading it during a reading slump. But the fact that it was my least favorite so far, but I still really, really loved it so much, and I still want to recommend it, means a lot. That means the series is like pretty solid in my opinion. So Powerless is a child best friends to lover story. We basically have 𝓲𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪, our heroine, and she is the cousin of the Eden brothers who we've seen throughout the book so far. And then the hero is Jasper, and he is the Eden brothers' best friends. He was taken in by their family when he was really young after some things happened in his family that were really traumatic, and he had nowhere else to go, and so he went to the Eden brothers and they took him in. I just love that whole like brotherly love dynamic so incredibly much. So because the Eden brothers took in Jasper, 𝓲𝓸, the heroine, would always visit over the summer and hang out with them because, like I said, they're cousins. And from a young age, she has always had a crush on Jasper. There is an age gap there, so as they were getting older and growing up together, the attraction grew more and more. But it wasn't until 𝓲𝓸 was like an adult, I want to say, that Jasper really started to reciprocate feelings. She would ask him to go to prom with her. At this point, he's like an NHL hockey star, and so he's like, that would be a little bit weird, I can't. And there's just always been attraction there and so much love there for each other. In the beginning of the book, 𝓲𝓸 is engaged to not a really great guy. Like, he's fine, but she's not in love with him. He's very misogynistic and just like dusty and gross. Jasper sees right through the whole ordeal and he is not into it, and he hates this for her. When 𝓲𝓸 comes to realize that like this is not what she wants to do, this is not who like she wants to be with, Jasper is there to help her. But at the same time, Jasper is also going through something because I don't want to give any spoilers, but one of the brothers is missing. That's really taking a toll on Jasper. These two decide to go on a little road trip, and they're going to go visit the Eden brothers' sister and her ranch, and that's what they're doing on the road trip. This book just gives really great Invisible String vibes because, like I said, there's always been like a crush there. Even when they've moved on to different ventures, he's in the NHL, she's about to get married, the different steps in their lives, there has been an invisible string tying them to each other and pulling them closer and closer together. And especially with 𝓲𝓸's whole engagement to this other guy, like there's just, it wouldn't work because you have an invisible string tying you to Jasper, and it is so cute. It's a bit taboo because there is an age gap, but other than that, not really. There are triggers in here. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but please look into them. But this story is so beautiful, and it is such a great third book to the whole series. So that is the last book that I'm recommending for this invisible string / you've been hiding in plain sight. Like, I don't really know what I'm gonna title this video. Hopefully it made sense to you guys, and I'm not just like coming up with ideas in my head that I'm like, oh, that would be a great idea, and it's really like, okay girl, like theoretically all romance books could fit like the invisible string trope because you're meant to be together, and so obviously there's gonna always be something tying you to each other. But this is ones where it's kind of like a little bit more clear and obvious, and like, I don't know, you like really see the signs of that, if that makes sense. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed today's recommendation Friday video. Also, let me know what you guys think about this little setting. I mean, it's gonna change anyways because I'm going home this weekend for the summer, and yeah. Anyways, I love you all so incredibly much. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a big thumbs up and a comment down below, and also subscribe so you never miss another upload from me. And if you have made it this far in the video, leave me like the thread emoji, like the thread, because it's an invisible string, or any string if you want. I don't know. Leave me an emoji if you made it to the end of this video. And I love you all so much, and I will see you very shortly with a new one. Bye.
If I got one thing right, it was you and me.